What is going on, my friends? So today I wanted to talk to you about Ethereum, and I'm going to be solo because Gary will not be able to join me today. And the reason for this is that I've been talking about Ethereum for quite a long time since, well, not too long, but I discovered it in the beginning of summer, and this was the cryptocurrency that immediately caught my attention, and I immediately saw all of its potential. And since then, I became an avid cheerleader for the network and for the community, and um, oftentimes express my feelings that Ethereum is growing faster and advancing faster than Bitcoin. And so the idea for this video came across because I've been spreading the information, I've been spreading my opinion in the comment sections on the conferences, in personal with people, everywhere I could speak about Ethereum, everywhere I had a chance, I was doing so. So I put out my thoughts in the notes and decided to share it with you guys. So I honestly think that Ethereum is the most important cryptocurrency on the market today. It has the most potential, and it definitely has all of the ingredients to do the so-called flipping in. Flipping in is this moment in time when people expect Bitcoin market capitalization to overthrow Bitcoin. And I know that recently we've seen Ripple with its market capitalization overthrowing Ethereum, which was quite a shock for some people. But I still think that uh, Ethereum's tech and Ethereum's momentum um, is very potential and is going to gain back its positions in the future and potentially become the cryptocurrency number one. For a long time, it's been a cryptocurrency number two. It just recently got overthrown by Ripple, but although I understand the need for Ripple and I understand it's growing, which is very connected to the banking solutions and the banking um, alliances that the company is currently making, especially in the Korea and Japan that we're currently hearing about, I still think that Ethereum technologically has way more potential. And here are a couple of reasons why. First of all, Ethereum has super active community that is constantly developing, the project, and constantly is involved in the life of the project. Ethereum's community, for me, is an example of how a project could be truly open source, truly crowdsourced, and truly aligned with the vision of the people that believe in this project. So that's number one. It starts with a strong community. This strong community is definitely backed by a very strong, very motivational, very bright and talented, and really genius individual of and persona of Vitalik Buterin, who I've seen multiple interviews with, and I'm convinced that this guy is the genius and he knows what he's doing, and Ethereum project is in good hands. Now, definitely there are a lot of counter arguments, and people are saying that uh, having such a strong leader is not a good thing, is not something that benefits Ethereum in the long run, because ultimately, you have this leader as a weak point. So if something happens with this leader, with the pricing of Ethereum drop, or maybe if at some point the leader starts to go towards the direction that is not, in favor among the community, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of problems with having a single leader in the project, a single strong leader, single weak point of entry, I would say, right? But I still think it's better than what we see with Bitcoin. And here's the key difference, for me at least, between Bitcoin and Ethereum, aside philosophical difference, aside from all the tech differences that they are. Bitcoin seems like a truly decentralized and truly anonymous network, because there is no single individual that is present, that is active with the community, and its community is very divided, and that's why we see what I call the Bitcoin on the needle effect, where Bitcoin is on the needle of hard forks and just cannot stop uh, splitting into new and new projects that are coming up. And it seems like all of the innovation that is really happening is happening on the side chains, on the separate projects, but not Bitcoin. So even the segue to X, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to double check after this stream and write it in the comments, but I think that even the segue to X was a hard fork. And I really don't like it about Bitcoin. And I feel like Ethereum has a way stronger, definitely way stronger roadmap, and is more on track, more aligned with with its vision. So that's for me the biggest difference, the innovation, and that's something that really damaged my trust in the Bitcoin during the summer. The fact that innovation is really avoiding the Bitcoin camp because of so much lack of consensus, I would say, among the community. Now, certainly Vitalik is a very active leader. He's constantly appearing on the public talks, on the interviews. He's constantly tweeting. He's writing in the Ethereum blog, and this is very good because, well, for me, what I like about it is that it shows the transparent project. Now, at the same time, I'm not super happy with the amount of transparency regarding the Ethereum Foundation itself. I still don't know all the people that are included there, and that's very important to me because I'm doing the network map between all of the crypto projects, and having no information about the team, the Ethereum Foundation team, is very difficult. I'm hearing about different people being part of it on Twitter. I found personalities on YouTube that are speaking on behalf of Ethereum Foundation and are speaking as a part of it, but there is no like simple list where I could check for them. So that would be definitely great. Now, I really think that Ethereum is becoming or about to become a Microsoft in the blockchain world, simply because it's been gaining its enterprise momentum for quite a long time, and it has already such big players as let's see, JP Morgan. I definitely know about JP Morgan and Intel. It's been gaining its. Sorry, my stream turned on the background. Let's see, I had my notes right here. So yeah, so we definitely have Intel, JP Morgan, Microsoft, Cisco on board, although it is curious that Microsoft is doing their blockchain at the same time Azur, which is also an enterprise solution. And I didn't see here in the list of partners, I didn't see IBM, but I do know that IBM is doing Hyperledge as well, but we're going to cover all the competition to Ethereum after I finish all of my reasons for believing in Ethereum long term. So yeah, something called EEA, Ethereum Enterprise Alliance, is a sign that Ethereum has connected a lot of enterprises together, and is definitely, even if it's gonna fail as a public solution, it's definitely have very strong enterprise roots, and is gonna continue moving on into the enterprise sector. That's why I believe it has so many resemblances with the Microsoft. Apple won the fight over the consumers at a certain point, and Microsoft won over the corporate market. And right now we know Microsoft mostly because of their corporate solutions that they've been making with Dell, with IBM, and stuff. So definitely, Ethereum is going big time enterprise, and no other competitors can right now show such an extensive portfolio of people that are interested in their technology as Ethereum. Now, similar to Bitcoin, Ethereum was #1 network of smart contracts. That is for EOS, Lisk, Stellar, Lumens, Hyperledge, Azur. All of them are coming in the game later. And definitely smart contracts is not something that only Ethereum should do. I do believe that a vital competition should be present, but having this effect of the first come player on that market adds towards the momentum that the community and Vitalik picked up very, very well and are continuing to build on. Another thing that I really like about Ethereum is the amount of problems and use cases that it currently is facing, because when we see other networks that are in the building, like IOTA, for example, or Cardano, that are in the progress, they're still trying to solve those solutions that are about, solve those problems that are about to come to our life, to our daily life. Ethereum already have, very solid problems. One of them, you definitely heard about that, as CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties, something that became in the end, that started in the end of November and went through enormous amount of rage among the community throughout December. And the problem there is that CryptoKitties really showed the limitations that the transactions on the blockchain. Let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase everything. CryptoKitties really revealed, not revealed, I would say gave an example of how limiting the transactions and transaction speed is on the blockchain of Ethereum. And I think it's very important to understand that CryptoKitties is definitely an experimental project, just like any project that has been built on Ethereum. And it played a huge role, I think, to build the Ethereum brand, to bring attention to Ethereum, and really push the developers towards the creation of new solutions, towards the creation of scalability and speed solutions. So, transaction speed. So I think that no other competition really had such a great example as CryptoKitties, as Ethereum did. And not to mention that Ethereum has its own messenger built on top of that. It has its own Dropbox-like solution. So it can really go into a lot of different ways. And I see that having such a strong developer community, it definitely adds to the future price of Ethereum as more and more people become involved. And think about it like that. If you're a developer that want to start building something on blockchain, you have all of those different competitors and you have Ethereum to choose among, which one you're going to go for. You're definitely having the developers' hunger. You definitely would want to learn as many platforms as possible. But if more people are contributing to building, I don't know, the libraries, and to if you simply have more people to ask from, right, as you go along the your educational process, it's definitely going to be easier for you to choose Ethereum than rather than any other network, because this necessity to constantly communicate with the community as you're learning to develop something new, it's very vital. I know because I've been learning to code myself, so you constantly have questions. The technology is new, and the documentation is not always as explicit as you want it to be. So Ethereum definitely is going to be a better start for any developer, who wants to start building something on blockchain, and then maybe they will choose to go to Hyperledge or Azur or Dragonchain, whatever. But Ethereum, it's definitely a great start. Now, talking about innovation, we see a very, very important innovation that Ethereum is promoting, something that other cryptocurrencies and blockchain projects are also starting to talk about. This is the shift towards proof of stake, and I'm personally a super fan of the proof of stake versus proof of work, because proof of work has definitely shown us how quickly things can escalate and how limiting it could be. That during the summer I was trying to start mining Ethereum, and I simply couldn't buy hardware. Everything was bought, and being a competitor to huge Chinese farms, for example, in terms of the power productivity, definitely difficult. So proof of work showed us that we cannot really talk about decentralization if only people with huge amounts of capital are able to buy enough equipment to do the computational work needed, to secure the blockchain, needed to support the blockchain. So definitely a great innovation that is being led by Vitalik in this direction, shifting Ethereum towards proof of stake, which is more environmentally friendly and truly decentralizing the network, something that I feel like Bitcoin personally needs a lot, because right now the price of producing one Bitcoin is something around $1,000 to $3,000. I'm not sure. I was reading McAfee the other day, and he was explaining, how much he spends on producing those Bitcoins in US. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to say anything about that, but definitely it is, very resource demanding. And from my personal experience, I was trying to start mining it, but I couldn't. So proof of stake is definitely a democratic innovation and technical innovation that we really need, that Ethereum is going to provide in years to come, or months to come. I'm not sure when they're releasing the Casper. Their proof of stake protocol is going to be released as Casper. And I know that currently there are two teams that are working on the Casper protocol. There is Vitalik and his team working on one hand, and then there is another guy, and I think he's from India. I don't remember his name. I'll put it in the comment section too for you. I'll try. But yeah, so we have this, and then we have two scalability solutions that are currently being discussed. One, Plasma, that we will see soon on Omni's Go, and which Vitalik co-wrote together with Joseph Poon, who is the CTO of Omni's Go, and also the co-author for Lightning Network, for a scalability solution for Bitcoin. And yeah, so we see a lot of innovation going on with Ethereum, and a lot of announcements. Well, definitely the Z-Snarks and the zero knowledge proof, right? That are becoming more and more of a hype. Is another example of an innovation by Ethereum. Not by Ethereum, but introduced and hyped by Ethereum more, right? Finally, a couple of notes in the end I wanted to make. As I said before, let's talk a bit about competition of Ethereum. And here I think it's very important to note that Ethereum is an example, even being so much into the enterprise world and creating this alliance of enterprises, Ethereum is still an example of an open blockchain, and we definitely see a tendency for big corporate players to choose over more private solutions. And one of the examples would be Disney, that in 2015 started to develop their own blockchain. Disney is very well known for their open source division, and they're definitely been tech innovator, and they created the Dragonchain, which later was dropped and picked up and released as an open source projects, and picked up by the former employees of Disney who've been working on this project. And I think we're gonna talk about Dragonchain coin tomorrow with Gary at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So I'm not gonna cover that too much, but Disney was essentially making a corporate solution which would be more an example of a more private blockchain, and towards this direction we see Hyperledge Fabric is going, and Azur. Now I don't know too much about Lisk and Stellar Lumens right now, but all of those solutions are definitely a threat, not a threat, but a competition to Ethereum on the smart contract market. You see, in order to understand Ethereum, it's really important to understand that Bitcoin positions itself as a currency, while Ethereum, positions itself as Microsoft or App Store. It's a clay, that could be formed into so many. It could take so many different forms. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's why it's important to understand that being so agile, being so flexible, being far ahead of the game of its competition, having strong leaders, strong community, having strong innovation releases constantly coming up, having a certain immunity to the hard forks right now, because after the Ethereum Classic, I think that Ethereum have integrated something along the lines of like a time bomb or something. No, I know it's an example, but basically right now it's very difficult, if not impossible. I remember I read it somewhere. Difficult, if not impossible, to hard fork from Ethereum. I'll need to double check my sources on that, but I remember hearing something like that. So definitely, Ethereum is immune right now, as I understand, to the hard forks, which is also adds up to the unity of the project. I really, really think that hard forks are important for innovation, but only at in limited amounts. Something that happens with Bitcoin currently is definitely super dramatic and is definitely not benefiting to the strong name of the currency, right? So when we see Bitcoin, we think about currency. Ethereum is more of the, solution network, this clay that could be turned into various different forms. Right. So now EOS, something that we spoke about with Gary before. EOS definitely, as any other competitor, as any other dark horse, has the potential to overthrow Ethereum. At the same time, we have to understand everything that I said before, before making any claims. Definitely, it's easy to say that, you're launching a project that is going to overthrow Ethereum, but in reality, we know that market don't care. You never will be able to dominate 100% of the market in such a capitalist environment that we currently have on the planet Earth. And therefore, all of the competitors that are coming after Ethereum are going to push its positions, but I definitely think that Ethereum already has very strong roots and won't be able to be overthrown easily. Now, in terms of price predictions, I I really think that if we compare Bitcoin to gold, Ethereum should be compared to something like gas or oil because of the very nature of ether that is used on the platform in order to support the Ethereum virtual machine computations and perform the smart contract coding codes. That therefore, its price is definitely going to be always lower than the Bitcoin price, than the price of gold, because it's a resource that is constantly in use. Yet, I think that we're still in the very early days of all of the cryptocurrencies, and all of the prices are definitely subject to change and subject to speculation. And I'm not sure if I used the speculation word correctly here, so let's let's keep it as change. Definitely going to change, and I see Ethereum having a very massive potential towards growth, both as the currency and as a project. All right, so those were my thoughts about Ethereum. I think I covered everything I wanted to say. If I have some extra thoughts, I'm going to put them down in the comment section. Feel free to interact with me in the comment section as well, and share your knowledge or correct me if I said something wrong. Definitely, this video was not a financial advice, and it's just an expression of my thoughts. So do your own research if you're planning to invest in Ethereum or anything, and don't trust anybody just because they are talking using smart terms that you don't understand and stuff. Yeah, so if you see any mistakes in the video, or if you have any contradictory information to what I said, feel free to drop the links down below, and I'll respond to them. What I was speaking was just my knowledge of the project, so I might be mistaken somewhere. All right, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for attending this stream, and I'll see you next time. Bye.